And up to now, we have not had a peaceful handover of power, much as we have been electing every 5 years. But we have not seen a peaceful handover of power from one president to a new face, and we see how the army reacts. The other forces, we have witnessed them in other change of governments. The police and prisons always do not participate in the change of governments and maybe fighting and whatever. They stay and continue to serve even when government changes. But the army we have not seen. So for now, I think the army should keep in parliament for reasons of our history as we
okay, 1 minute to close. You're off air. Yes.
Right Honourable Speaker, as I conclude, I feel that the office of the Prime Minister should stay, except we withdraw the programs that are implemented by that ministry so that it remains with the supervisory role. And the RDCs have been very vital. We should only establish the way they are appointed, since they are public servants and they are paid public money. They should have qualifications and their work well stipulated, such that they are not impartial. Then the Electoral Commission, we shouldn't restrict it to people who have been judges. I think this is an office that anyone who is well qualified can handle, even if they are not judges, because we have seen it from experience. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Amongi Namugansa Ngabirano. Then I come to Honourable Kulaije, Honourable Kamusime, Sajali Avene, Ochan, and Aivu. Mutonyi? Okay.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, allow me also congratulate you and members for successfully going through the election, and thank the Honourable Nwagaba for the motion and the committee for processing the amendments. Madam Speaker, a matter like this is a very important matter which touches on the Constitution. That's why in the last Constitution amendment, members were requested and given time to go and consult. Some of these matters are very, very important that would even require further consultation with the people that we represent. If I'm to start with the proposals of Deputy President versus the Vice President, Right Honourable Speaker, we know the previous Vice Presidents. For people to come and tag the change because of the current Vice President would not be really taking it seriously. I remember when Honorable Kazibwe was a Vice President, there are some Ugandans who were even complaining that she was too loud and too much. When Honorable Bukenya was the Vice President, she took an initiative and went almost throughout our constituency promoting rice growing in the country. So I do not think that the issue of the office of the Vice President is silent or is not powerful. It might be that it is strategic that the current Vice President has decided to take the office the way he has taken it. It is an office which is constitutional. It's an office that has been powerful and remain powerful. For a deputy president in the context of our African context, I would agree with the committee that let us leave the office of the vice president as it is, and if we want to change to deputy president, let members be given opportunity to have more thorough examination, probably even a commission appointed to consult further on the matter. With this amendment coming from private members and having a very short period of consultation would be not in tandem with the proposal. So I agree with the committee. On the issue of the Prime Minister, Right Honourable, I want to say the Prime Minister plays a very vital role in coordinating government and the executive, in guiding ministers when there are issues in the ministries. There are very many interventions that the Prime Minister undertakes in processing cabinet matters, in following up on cabinet decisions and resolution. It is actually the engine of the executive. So I do not agree that that office should be removed. I agree with the committee that let that office be retained. And on the ministers, still I agree with the committee that ministers in the Constitution is discretionary. The President appoints from the sitting members of Parliament, but is also having discretion to appoint from outside. My experience, and many members of Parliament, the experience is that sometimes members who are appointed not from the members of Parliament will find it very difficult to resonate with the requests from members of Parliament, even the policy issues, assessing them sometimes in the context of what is on the ground, what the people want, vis-a-vis scrutinizing it at that level sometimes becomes very difficult. So it should be a mixture and a balance where there are also circumstances that members of cabinet who are not placed in a ministry that are of their profession have done better than those who have been placed there by their profession. A minister is at a strategic level, is at a policy level, is not doing technical work. The ministries have technical people. Even if you are technical in that field, you cannot really process the technical nature of the work in a ministry. So for the strategic direction in a ministry, I think let us agree that let the current balance of mixing be retained. On the issue of term limits, Right Honourable, I take consideration that term limit, when it came in 2005, we debated the matter of term limit. Then in the last concluded amendment, we debated the matter, but in
Honourable Muganza, Ngabirano, Honourable Kulaije. No, I'm coming this side. I'm moving like this now.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable, allow me also to congratulate you upon your re-election as a member of Parliament. Right Honourable, I want to also add, first of all, I thank the Honourable, I've forgotten him, who brought Nwagaba for bringing these very important amendments, proposed amendments. On the issue of RDCs, Right Honourable, and members, as a former deputy RDC, I know the work that RDCs do. Article 203 describes the RDC's role, but it is so brief that it does not even go into details. I had members say they had security, yes, but it's not limited to that. They supervise both government and non-government programs. And I have seen, right honorable members, some members here are already lobbying to become RDCs, so please. Yes. And so don't abuse where you are going, okay? So status quo should be maintained. Right honorable, I support the proposal of having the speakers panel. As long as their roles are properly described, to avoid confusion, because sometimes you can have some people, they see come and say that this parliament convenes, you see one of the speaker panels coming, cheering, either in excitement or what, passes what. Another one comes, does that. The main speaker comes and reverses it. I think, honorable members, we must have their roles properly and properly articulated. When do they chair? Under which circumstances do they chair? And what are they limited to? If we don't go into it properly, we may cause confusion. Right honorable speaker and members, UPDF should stay, and for sure they should stay, because every country is seen to be strong because of their military power. I'm glad to have Prime Minister who is a general. He will tell you more. So don't talk about UPDF. Term limits. Not now. Term limits, not now. 7 years. Right honorable speaker, I know some of our colleagues are just fearing here because the country is watching. They love 7 years. They do. They do. They do love 7 years. Put there about whatever, a secret ballot, and you see. It will go through. So, yes, 7 years, for me, I support. There is a lot of wastage of resources in elections in this country, and yet we are still a developing country. Another one, right honorable, Vice President, Prime Minister, status quo. For Cabinet, right honorable members, let us have the status quo, both elected members and ex-officials. It doesn't mean that when you're an ex-official, you cannot perform well as, a minister. And sometimes even these ex-officials have also been members of parliament. So why would someone think they should be only elected? And some ministries are so busy that if possible, right honorable speaker, would even have ex-officials of some ministries to keep, work flowing. For local councils, for me, I don't see any problem. If we can have elections on one day, we can avoid so many things. It's only the terrace centers that can be separated. There is a lot of rigging, right honorable members, in these local councils. A lot of time wastage and insecurity, because once people finish to elect the upper leaders, these local council elections are ignored. Low voter turnout, always and always. Members, why don't we have one day? It is very possible that a person who has waken up to come and vote can vote here, vote there, and we have separate terrace centers for local councils and these upper elections. We can only separate, right honorable members, the leaders maybe of municipal councils, the municipal mayors, because these are few and they can be managed better. So for me, I think we should have them elected one day. Also, I'm about to conclude. Right honorable, I think I need to end here. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Ngavirano. After Ngavirano, Felix Kuraije. Then I'll get you when I'm getting the general. The generals are sitting near each other. You and the general will come last. After Felix, we'll have Mutonyi, Sajali Avene, Butemba, Aivu, Ochan, Leader of Opposition, then we close here.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I also want to congratulate you for making it back
No, Orokabe.
and all the members who did it. Those who didn't, I call upon you to join me for serious business. Right Honorable Speaker, the 1995 Constitution was made in a hearing way. It was a Constitution that was made following the chaotic Uganda we had had since independence. Therefore, it had ingredients of recovery and reconstruction. Right Honorable Speaker, after 35 years, most of those objectives have been achieved. And now we should go to a constitutional order that looks at development and serious business for national development. I want to thank Honorable Nwagaba, because this is now very timely, that we should make a law. We should have a constitution which does not talk of what happened during the Amini time, which should not talk about what happened during Obote time, but which should lead us to prosperity and development. Therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, the current constitution should be touched in that direction. And actually for me, I think that we should have a more comprehensive process to look into this. But Right Honorable Speaker, there are so many ingredients that we can look at, but as Uganda now, our development equation is only unbalanced by a few aspects. One of them is the issue of governance. Therefore, in this vein, I want to specifically look at the proposal to return term limits. Uganda, because of long times of instability, when we are sleeping, we still wake up and think that we can go back to instability. Therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, we should return term limits and even entrench them. The moment this one is done, all the rest will just follow. That is now the biggest question we have as a country. We have never changed a president peacefully. We have been having 35 years of recovery, and there are going to be 40. I think it is this time that now we should follow the main route of development like other countries. We are doing our pioneer ways. Let's now join the main route and entrench term limits. The next point I want to talk about is the military in parliament. The historical perspective of introduction of the army is very clear. We all know about it.
1 minute to conclude. So we can close the debate.
All Ugandans and our UPDF, we still face the same common threats, and I think we still have the same interests. Therefore, I pray that for the next few years, UPDF could stay in parliament. Moreover, their stay is always evaluated every 5 years. Right Honorable Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kulaije. Kulaije, then Mutonyi, Butemba, Sajari Avene, Ochan. So, yes, and Okabe. Then we get the generals here.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I congratulate you upon your election.
Thank you.
And those members who made it, those who didn't make it, let's hope for the best thereafter. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm carrying just a pinch of the record that I have in my library on conflict in this country and Africa. This is just a pinch of what I have on my library. What am I talking about, Right Honorable Speaker? That the African continent has been belittled by conflict. 2, our country lives in a region that has 2 conflict systems: the Great Lakes conflict system and the Horn of Africa conflict system. And the conflict studies inform us that conflict systems feed on each other and feed into each other. That's number 1. Number 2, it's also true that most of the political interventions in Africa have been either through the military or because of the weakness of the military. Those 2 points therefore drive us to what? That given our history, as the preamble of the Constitution says, 2, given the fact that we are not yet home and dry as far as political stability is concerned, it becomes prudent that we maintain the military representation in Parliament. Because, Right Honorable Speaker, the military is part and a parcel of the body politique of any society. You want to exclude it, we shall have the 1960s experience where there was a signpost at each barracks, keep the politics out of the army. Whereas that was the case. 1960, the army was deployed in Tororo to quell a riot. By the time it was done, 1,000 people lay dead. 1964, there was a referendum in the Los Counties. When the Banyoro decided to go back to Bunyoro, there was an uprising in those counties by the Waganda landlords there. The army was deployed to deal with the situation. Again, 1964, the military made a mutiny, and the Minister of Internal Affairs, Felix Onama, was sent to Jinja to quell the riot. He was taken hostage, and whatever their demands were, Right Honourable Speaker, I need your protection.
Order, members, please.
Right Honourable Speaker, all the demands were given. 1966,
okay, 1 minute to conclude.
in short, for us to sustain what has been registered politically in this country, we cannot forget the course we have taken to reach where we are. It would be foolish for us as a country to throw away the radar that had brought us this stability. I support the military stay in Parliament. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Honourable Mutonyi. Mutonyi, then Pentagon, Sajali Avene, Ochan, Aifu. Is that on there? Sewungu. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Because of pressure of time, I'm going to be very brief. Madam Speaker, on the issue of the Army, I support the Army remaining in Parliament for the reasons that that other members have mentioned, because of the turmoil we used to go through, because they were kept behind, they didn't know what was going on. Now they are part and parcel of us. There is no way they can say we didn't know what was going on. So I support that they remain. Speakers panel, Madam Speaker, I remember at the beginning of last year we experienced some vacuum. When you are away, then the deputy was away, we kept coming here and they said both of them were not around, so we did not know what to do. So when we talk about speakers panel, I support it. But then the rules of procedure should define their limits and what they are supposed to do. Prime Minister is the link between Parliament and the executive. So that post should remain, and it should prevail over his fellow ministers. And then Parliament, then work will move on well. The Electoral Commission, Madam Speaker, I don't see the reason why people suggest only lawyers. There have been teachers, there have been engineers, and in the Electoral Commission they have a legal department. So the legal department can assist whoever goes there. So I don't see, on the issue of RDCs, I'm very, very fast. On the issue of RDC, Madam Speaker, the office of RDC is very important. The only problem why members are against this office is because RDCs don't do what they are supposed to do. When it came to elections, they are the ones who give directions as to who should be elected. They left the security, they even caused more security. Otherwise, the office is important and it can be there for a supervisory role. On the issue, yeah, they became political. On the issue of term limits, the term limits, I support reinstatement of the term limits, and there is no problem with the 7 years. The 7 years, you come here, Before you realize you have spent so much, by the time you realize that you are just beginning to get something in your pocket, it is already time. It's already time for elections. So members, Madam Speaker, thank you very much. The 7 years will make...
That's her opinion, please. Allow her.
Yeah, I was saying 7 years, just as Honorable Namuganza said. Some people are fearing the population, but for me, I have got calls from my constituency. The councillors, the others, the chairpersons are saying, please support the 7 years, because they know what they have gone through, and they want to mend fences. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kamusime, Pentagon. Pentagon, Sajalia Bene, Aivu, Ongom, Ochan, Sawungu, and then Karunchi. Yes. Ochen, it's called Ochen, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker and honourable members, I want to take this opportunity because since elections I have not had an opportunity to speak on this microphone. May I take this opportunity to thank the people of Butemba constituency in Changwanzi for giving me an opportunity to serve them for 5 years. It has gone down in the books of history. My children and grandchildren will surely know that I was once a member of Parliament. And may I also congratulate my successor. Madam Speaker, I also congratulate you upon being elected back to Parliament, and I wish you well in your endeavors because I know the next step that you are looking forward to. Madam Speaker and members, may I say that I'm very grateful to Honorable Nwagaba for bringing such proposals at the right time. And sometimes, because of the politics of the day, when you hear that a member has brought a bill and most of them the opposition, sometimes it divides people. But these opposition members are also Ugandans, and they feel good and wish good. So I think it is high time that we applauded such people. May I also now target a few areas that I feel I should put my input. One is that any understanding, well-tested Ugandan can lead the Electoral Commission. So I feel that anyone who is capable should be given an opportunity to lead, not just someone who has done wrong. I also to support the idea of holding parliamentary, presidential and local government elections on the same day, because it will save time and money and also will help eliminate some of the vices like rigging and other issues. So we can handle it on one day and people will save time to go and work. About the army representatives in Parliament, since we have other special interest groups, I think it would be okay. But in the line of trying to reduce government expenditure, I think we can make 5. It's not a bad idea. When one of our colleagues was talking here, when we had an outburst in Parliament in 2017, I was present when one of the generals knocked out one of our colleagues. I was there. I was almost the next person. I felt bad, but I just forgave him because I know maybe as an individual, not just the force. So we can retain but 5. Then about the Attorney General and Deputy being ex-officials, it's a good idea. Likewise for the ministers. You have seen ministers losing positions in their constituencies, not because they are bad people, but people expect a lot. They think once you become a minister, you have become a minister.
Okay, 1 minute.
So if ministers are to deliver adequately, they should not be members of Parliament. That's when they are going to serve equally without fear or favor. And finally, Madam Speaker, about the presidential term limits, it's a good idea. We need these term limits. We talked about it last time, but some wrong people tried to deny the opportunity. And finally, the 7 years, sincerely we know, Ugandans, even when you go back today to a vote, they will change the person they have voted before even starts working. So we may not understand what voters want. So we may have to understand here for the voters. That's why they sent us here. 7 years is a good time in Uganda for people to sit down and work. Say it or not, it is the adequate time according to Ghanaian times. I thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Sajaliavene, then Honorable Atiku, Ochen, Ongom, Sewungu, Okabe, and then Karunji.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I also take the opportunity to congratulate you on your election.
Thank you very much.
And I think I'll start with the simplest. Number one, the ministers should be ex-officios. Term limits should not even be debated. We must reinstate them. Madam Speaker, the panel of speakers, in my opinion, is a must. We need to be consistent in East Africa, and I think we also need to relieve you of that big load of work. The 7 years, the few years I've been in Parliament, I think we are dealing with people who are smugglers, because this thing has been smuggled in several times, and I don't know why. It's not on the original paper, and people just bring it up and want us to debate it and pass it. First of all, in 7 years, people relax too much. Efficiency deteriorates as one goes on. And as an economist, I will tell you, where there is competition, there is life. Seriously speaking, if one cannot deliver in 5 years, one will never deliver even in 10 years. And if you deliver in 5 years, then automatically the electorate will bring you back for another 5, and then you can take 10 instead of 7. Right Honourable Speaker, the army. You know, the army before speaking here really made me happy. He said that whenever the armies are deployed, people die. In fact, we almost died in Parliament here, you remember. So, I really don't buy the idea, except on 2 issues. Number one, there should be equal representation. You remember, everybody knows that the population of Uganda has more youths than all of us. The population of the army is just hundreds of thousands of people. They're not even in millions. And we have only 5 for youth and 10 for the army, the disabled and the rest of them. So I think it's really tricky. Now, what I would suggest, in my opinion, that suggestion lastly is, one, I think we should have a 2-tier legislature where we have the lower house and the upper house, and then those senior citizens can be in the upper house, and then the commoners will come and debate the people's issues, and I think that will solve the problem. Otherwise, we are going to have problems of equal representation in Parliament, and sooner than later, since the youth are becoming more violent, we don't know what is going to happen in this economy. I thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Atiku, Ochen, Ongom, Fungaro, Sewungu, Okabe, and then Karunji. Then we have the heavy finance and the Prime Minister, and Honorable Lob.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Allow me to, first of all, congratulate and thank the sponsor of this bill, the Honourable Niwagawa, and also the committee for processing the bill and presenting the report. Madam Speaker, just like many colleagues, I do support the proposal of having the panel of speakers. It is not going to be a new thing in parliamentary practice, and therefore honorable colleagues should support it because of the reasons advanced for it. Madam Speaker, the issue of restoration of term limits is core. The day the term limits and the age limits were removed, the framers of the 1995 Constitution were in tears. I am happy that yesterday when the Honorable Cecilia Ogwal was presenting here, she reminded us of the preamble of the Constitution of 1995. And I think, Madam Speaker, every time we are tampering with the Constitution, there is a need for us to first reflect on the preamble of the 1995 Constitution. Why those words were specifically put in the Constitution. So, Madam Speaker, the restoration of the term limits is like patching a torn trouser. And indeed, our Constitution, every time we mutilate it, today is an opportunity for us to fix what was undone, and yet we had not yet even tested that provision as it was put in the Constitution. Madam Speaker, on the issue of the proposal to hold elections on the same day, I do support it. Just like the Honorable Patrice Namuganza said, Madam Speaker, I think what we need to do is to have the tally centers for the various levels of elections at different, say for instance, from LC3 downwards. We can have them at sub-county level. For parliamentary and actually LC5, the mayors and what have you can be held at constituency level. Meanwhile, for parliamentary and LC5 and presidential can be carried at the district level. So really, this proposal, I do agree with it. What we need to specify is where the results of the various levels can be declared at. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I do concur.
1 minute to conclude.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. On the proposal to have Deputy President with full powers, I think members, honorable members, this is a very good proposal. It's not the first of its kind. We learn from the best democracies. In America, it is working. Here in our neighborhood, in the East African community, Kenya. And I think it gives us an opportunity to have a deputy president who builds capacity and gets acceptance of the masses on ground, rather than having somebody appointed and who only comes here to sit in the office to read newspapers. Of course, the Honorable Betty Amongi said here that the different individuals who are appointed to that office exercise different authorities. But I think to have a deputy president who also goes out to canvass for votes to get the acceptance of the masses is a better deal than us vesting all these powers in one individual who chooses. He can even choose the dullest from among the members of parliament or from the society to be vice president. So really for me, I do buy this idea, and I'll propose that members support it so that we have a deputy president who has powers and who commands authority. And indeed, in the absence of the president, should any natural occurrences occur, he should be able to step in as the president of the country. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Ochen, then Joy Ongom, Fungaro Sewungu, then Okabe Karunji, Leader of Opposition, Bahati, and the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to sincerely thank you and report to you that Onyinge Christopher has been taken to court this evening. I also want to extend my appreciation to the Minister of Internal Affairs, who also played a leading role in ensuring that Onyinge gets justice. Madam Speaker, I want to start with the Speaker's panel. Madam Speaker, I want to concur with many members, honorable members, who endorse the Speaker's panel, because this one will act as a training ground or an institution of members who can take over in the next generation. So I'm in total agreement with the Speaker's panel. Madam Speaker, in relation to Army personnel in Parliament, I want to concur with many members that Army men are definitely good. Let's not look at one side only of beating and maybe causing some few confusions. But these Army personnel are crucial in the security of this nation. The only thing is that we should regulate the number and scale it down to 5, as many members as proposed. Madam Speaker, on term limit, Madam Speaker, term limit is one of the issues that even the world over judges a country. And in Uganda, I think when we restore this will bring us to a certain level in the ranking of the world. So I support that term limit should be restored. Madam Speaker, the extension of 7 years, 2 years from 5 years. Recently, we have been canvassing for votes, and the canvassing for the votes, we were advocating for 5-year term. I wonder now when we come here and we begin to say a different story. I think the 7-year term of office has been smuggled, as many members as put it here. So for me, I support a 5-year term of office where...
Okay. You've already got time, you've already concluded. Oh, the nyingi, okay, concluded.
Madam, I conclude by saying Electoral Commission chairperson should be a public office where people compete and who qualifies is put in this position. Because if you are appointed by one person, Madam Speaker, even as we talk now, we do not know what may happen to our current chairperson of Electoral Commission. Because if you are appointed by one person, you can also be removed by one person. But if you are appointed publicly and where you compete, you will be having terms and conditions of your office. And it would also save you in case of any inconveniences. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. As I invite Honorable Ongom, let me take this opportunity to thank the Minister of State for Internal Affairs, Honorable Obiga Kania, for acting expeditiously on the issue of Citizen Onyinge. Thank you so much, Minister. Honorable Joy, then Fungaro, Soungu, Honorable Kabe, Honorable Karunji.
Yeah, thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to thank Don Ramon Agaba for this bill, and I want to thank the committee. Madam Speaker, I want to start on the note of repealing the office of the RDC. We realize that the office of the RDC is just like a duplication of work, Madam Speaker. Of recent, you had cabinet talking of removing these offices, departments, and agencies because there is duplication of work. The office of the RDC, according to Local Government Act, is a civil servant who is supposed to be political. But these people take sides when it comes to elections, Madam Speaker. Me, I feel that office should be scrapped, then the DPC and maybe the chairman also 5 and others should take charge of the district and things move on. Madam Speaker, on the issue of the Speaker's panel, this House experienced a gap. Madam Speaker, when you went on an official duty together with the Deputy Speaker and we experienced some vacuum, this is a time that we feel there must be the Speaker's panel One, it shall create no gap. And two, Madam, it shall give the members of parliament an opportunity to build their capacity for bigger offices in future. Me, I feel the speakers panel need to be supported, and I support it. And on the presidential term limit, Madam Speaker, there is no doubt I support this, that let us have 2 terms for the presidential limit. It shall be okay with this country. And the office of the vice president to be replaced with the deputy president, it makes no difference. It can be a vice president, it can be a deputy president, but we feel that office should also go to the population together with the president. Let them go to canvass votes for votes. Let him support the president to be, and himself also, so that we see is a competent person who can replace the president in the event of anything. So I support this cause of having this office of the vice president elected. Then the office of the prime minister, Madam Speaker, I feel this office is very crucial. The office of the prime minister should remain. He oversees the rest of these other ministers, and I feel that that office should not be scrapped. And the change of the office of the Uganda Police Force, Madam Speaker, to Uganda Police Service. Madam Speaker, I think this shall be the 3rd time that they're changing. It was Uganda Police, then they changed their name to Uganda Police Force, and now we want to change it to Uganda Police Service. Their actions is the one that is supposed to be regulated. We see that police is taking sides. They shouldn't take sides. Changing the name alone will not help us, but their attitude needed to be checked. Then the 7 years, Madam Speaker, I feel we remain with the 5 years. This will make the leaders accountable to their electorates. They will do what is really expected of them. It has been smuggled in the bill. And Madam Speaker, you remember the other time in the other bill, it was also smuggled, and courts quashed it. And I feel that if we allow it to be here when it was not in the original bill, it will be a matter of court. Madam Speaker, on your chair, please allow us remain with the 5 years. I think it will help us, and we shall be accountable to our electorates. Thank you.
Honorable Fungaro. Honorable Kabe.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, I thank you once again. My colleague, Honorable Nwagaba, thank you for this. I would like to address myself mainly to 3 things. Honorable members, first of all, we must begin from the philosophical principle that necessitates a law to be brought in place and the evil that is supposed to be cured. Look at the cabinet versus legislature. By design, they are supposed to have a functional relationship of checks and balances. But by the virtue of the fact that a minister is also a member of parliament, there comes in a problem of conflict of interest. How can a minister check upon himself? Suppose the only person in this house is only one. He's the minister and he's also the MP. Ministers must be ministers, and members of parliament should be members of parliament. That should be the principle of democracy, which is good. So therefore, let's do it that way. Secondly, the issue of RDCs. Right Honorable Speaker, the president is the one appointing ambassadors. And ambassadors, when they are outside there, we are even happy with them because they act in a way of representing Uganda. They don't represent the president. When they speak, there is no chairman LC5 to compete with them. There is no cow abroad there. The only Ugandan executive there is the ambassador. But the president sends somebody outside and sends someone to the district. Does the president not have confidence in the LC5 chairman, in the cow? Why does the president want to be represented in the village? Because the RDC acts as a representative of the president politically. Does the president not have satisfactory happiness with the chairman LC5 and the cow? the RDCs to be removed. Another problem we have here is this. RDCs have problems of protocol. They don't even respect members of parliament. They pose as if they are above the MPs because they are appointed by the president, who is the head of state and commander-in-chief. Yet we members of parliament are over and above RDCs when it comes to the protocol we respect in the house. There is a bad example in Obonge. Somebody called Gore Goffin. He is the RDC of Obonge. He behaves in Obonge. Doesn't know that a member of parliament, a minister, is far above him in terms of protocol. Remove the RDCs. Coming to the issue of the army, Right Honorable Speaker. The issue of the army, there is a fallacious argument advanced by my people, my friends like Ekulaije, that the army is here to solve the historical problem. Madam Speaker, 1 minute on this. This is very critical. The historical problem of Uganda, which has been solved by the army, which one exists? These are the historical problems of Uganda. Violence, bad governance, corruption, sectarianism. These things are happening today. Even they are worse in this regime than they are in the past. So which historical problem has the army solved by the virtue of their being in the parliament today? The army is supposed to have, the army is the constituents of the army MPs here. You hear the people with disabilities talking about problems of the people with disability. Youth talking about problems of youth in their constituency. We talk about problems of our constituency. Women the same. But in this house, I have been here. This is the third time I've been here. I am a member of the Committee of Defense and Internal Affairs. We have always moved across the country seeing the welfare of the army in Somalia state. But members of the UPDF representing the UPDF in the house do not articulate issues of the soldiers in the constituency. They don't visit the barracks in the districts, in the region. So who are you representing here? Who? You are representing Museveni only, the president. You are just like the RDC. So the army therefore serves no purpose because the army MPs don't represent the army. They don't visit the constituencies. They don't talk about the problem of the welfare of the army. I have talked about this on the Committee of Defense. I have been the Senior Minister of Defense and Security. I question the army about the army MPs about their role here in the house. Therefore, yes, information.
Information from the army.
Right, Honourable Speaker, thank you, and the Honourable Member, thank you for giving me way. I ended 2020 and started 2021 in the Karamoja region, visiting military barracks and talking to our soldiers. My colleagues were in other regions. So it's not true that we don't visit our troops. We do. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable, no.
Conclude, Madam, conclusion.
No,
he was giving me information, Madam, with due respect.
No, you took
the conclusion is here. I thank Madam Speaker, number one. Secondly, the issue of the army presence as a members of parliament here solve the problem, historical problem of Uganda.
Honourable Seungu, Honourable Kabe, Honourable Karunji.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I want to thank Honourable Nwagaba for bringing these amendments. And Honourable members, I want to thank the Honourable Speaker. You've given us enough time to debate these amendments. And I pray through the Almighty God and the Blessed Virgin Mary that the Holy Spirit comes on us, we make a good amendments in these constitutional amendments. Honourable Speaker, the chairman of the Electoral Commission, I am a member of the IPOD, and a lot of issues are raised in the IPOD concerning chairman of the Electoral Commission, the way he's appointed. An amendment is key other than changing the name. Madam Speaker, when you talk about ministers, South Africa has 28 ministers. Tanzania reduced from 30 to 19. When you go to Kenya, they have 22 ministers. When you go to Burundi, they have 20 ministers. Rwanda has 28. Uganda has 31 cabinet ministers against 49 ministers of state. And some of them don't know each other. Actually, if you are to put them into Uganda's bombardier, it will just get a crash. Even the sitting capacity is not available for them. We need to work on the cabinet. This business of saying that we are looking for regional balances, it does not work. Karamoja, Minister for State of Karamoja is ever raising matters of that are killing this country. Some of them I have seen on Bahati. Minister of Finance is never here, it is only Bahati who is around. For today I've seen Honorable Hilaronek, my fellow Catholic, appearing today for the last 3 years. And he has not been attending. Maybe he was incapacitated. But this is the reason why these people, they think Minister of State is there, maybe he's coming, they are ever speculating who is coming. Right, Honorable Speaker, the issue of UPDF, Honorable the General Kulaije, what he has raised, the books he has shown here, we have read of all of them. The issue of bringing UPDF in Parliament does not solve insecurity and the issue of past history. Let me say this. These members come in Parliament at the pretext of they being impartial. But when it comes to voting, they vote from one side. Let us agree that once we allow UPDF soldiers here, representatives, we shall share them. Opposition takes 5. The moment we agree on that in our amendment, that whenever they are voting, Honorable Kuraije, the others will come. Madam Speaker, as we talk now, the new UPDF members who are coming, they are all heads of departments in the army. The Chief Defense Forces, Land Division, Deputy Chief Defense Forces. A minute, Madam Speaker. Just 1 minute. So now, all of these people who are coming are heading very big departments in the army. They are coming in. And I want to say this, Madam Speaker. The crash this country will get from these army representatives, one time they will shoot themselves. Because they think people come here to get money. I'm not in Parliament to get money. I'm in Parliament to legislate. Honorable Speaker, the issue of 5 years. In Ghana, they spend 4 years in Parliament and their democracy is growing. There are some night dancers who go. For me, Madam Speaker, I'm very interested in knowing from the chairman of the committee, why do people come to your committee to give their legal views, to give their views on those amendments? You find that 60 people have supported an idea, 10 are against that idea, then you take the 10 at the cost of the 60. That is very, very dangerous. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, the issue of Speaker's panel, it is key. But what is funny, I'm supporting it. Members come here, they say, we want the Speaker's panel, they don't want a Deputy President. Now, the President, you know, needs more people to help him the way we need the Speaker's panel. And that one also improves on the issues of changing of power and knowing the roles someone is going to train in becoming a president. So as I conclude, right now, Speaker, those of you who come, Mr. Chairman and Honorable Nwagaba, Madam Speaker, I'm seeking for indulgence. I don't know why the committee never looked at the clawbacks that are in our constitution, which are bringing all these problems. You give this to the constitution, to the president, then you limit him here, but you give him rights of raising other issues that are against the constitution. Madam Speaker, that's my submission in the amendments of the constitution. But I want to thank you very much for giving us this time, that we have had enough time to debate. Should be reduced. Otherwise, these people are becoming a forest in their own cabinet. Thank you.
Honorable Kabe.
Right Honorable Speaker, allow me on behalf of the people of Serere to congratulate you upon your victory.
Thank you very much.
And now that you are back in the House, it's almost probable that you will make it back as the Speaker and continue leading us. Many people have spoken and members have spoken. I have been listening, and we have almost made up our minds on some of these issues. But allow me to add my voice on what members have already said. First of all, term limits. I support the proposal so that we can allow citizen participation in that topmost office of the country. Let's open it up for others also to contest. And when your time is up, you quit. We have been back and forward on this matter, but I think this time we should entrench it in the Constitution. Secondly, on the office of the RDC, I don't see how useful they are, especially knowing how they interfered with the elections and made some of our colleagues lose. But yes, the office of the RDC may be maintained, but let their roles be revised. And also their recruitment process. They should actually fall under the public service, and it should be competitive. But also we see that these RDCs are not well facilitated in the current state. Most of the time they are begging for fuel from some politicians. So if they fall under the public service, then they can be paid according to the scales, salary scales of this country. UPDF may be represented in the House, but the number should be 2 or 5, or not more than 5. Just 2 would be better. Information, yes, please.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, for giving me way to give you information, and thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Madam Speaker and the House, I want to give information to the Honourable Member about the RDCs. And as I agree with your statement, Honourable, we can confirm that by the high level of participation of RDCs in elections, whenever it is time for elections, most RDCs present themselves as NRM flag bearers, or they compete for the position of members of parliament. But if they were equally facilitated very well, it would not attract, or it wouldn't really, they wouldn't come to participate for this kind of positions, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for the information. Yeah, Madam Speaker, still on the UPDF. We are soon going to have Parliament become the command center for UPDF. Because we are seeing all these top commanders are coming here. The CDF, the Command of Land Forces. I wonder whether we want to transfer the command center here. That's why we must have only 2 or not more than 5 in the House. And also the manner in which the elections are conducted is not very transparent. I would have loved to see Kulaige back in the House, but how all of them were thrown out, we don't know. Regarding the panel of speakers, I do not support the proposal. Yes, I do not support the proposal because we are having about 500 MPs coming soon. We want to add more speakers in Parliament. Are we adding, are we not going to add even a heavier burden on our taxpayers? No, even Parliament will have more and more land cruisers for the speakers and the rest. Please, no. Let us, we are the very people who are saying we must not burden our taxpayers. Yet we are creating more positions to burden our taxpayers. That one, allow me, okay, please.
Honourable members, there are no new speakers coming to the House. The arrangement would be that within the members of the House, okay, maybe the chairpersons of the committees or something, within the House who are already there, they are not coming to the
Thank you, Honorable Kabe and Honorable Speaker. The information I want to give is that once we have a panel of speakers, we are going to utilize better the 500 plus members of parliament. Otherwise, if we don't have their leaders ready to work on them, then we shall not benefit in them. We shall spend a lot of money and they will not deliver. That's why I call upon you to rally with the majority view of having the panel of speakers.
Okay,
I thank you.
Fine. Well, Madam Speaker, I appreciate your clarification. Probably that has helped me to understand more. But I'm just careful about adding more burden on the taxpayer, but that has been clarified to me, so I would support it this time. Okay, that's helpful. When it comes to other proposals, let's maintain the status quo. For example, the ministers be selected from members of parliament and some technical people should be there. Friends and members, technocrats are very difficult to work with, I can assure you. We can work closely with our fellow ministers here who are members of parliament because they are also politicians. Technocrats frustrate even service delivery. So if we say we push all the ministries technocrats, I think even we are going to make service delivery even worse. It's better to have a political head supervising that ministry and responsible to this house. That is my position. Otherwise, for other proposals, I would support them, and I want to thank the committee for the work well done. And Madam Speaker, if we have a speaker as industrious as you, and a deputy speaker who is as good as you, I'm sure this parliament will even do better. Thank you so much.
Karunji, then Honorable Bahati, or Saida. Okay, Honorable Karunji, Bahati, Honorable Saida, Honorable Leader of Opposition, finally the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. I also want to add my voice to thank the committee, the Honorable Niwagaba, for bringing this amendment bill. Madam Speaker, I want to say that with the issue of Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General, we leave it the way it is. Because I have seen the Attorney Generals we've been having have done their best the way it is supposed to be. So I don't believe that getting Attorney Generals from outside this Parliament and the way the process is being suggested will make any big difference. So we need to have them as part of us, as people who understand what politics is, so that things go better. Equally, members of the public service, Madam Speaker, I also support the fact that we should have for them 5 years. In those 5 years, I think they can serve us well. The issue of RDCs, I've seen many members saying that we do away with it, but for me, I believe the RDCs are good and we need them, much as when it comes to elections, they are always so disturbing. But they do a great work. Within that period, the vote is done, good sensitization services to our people, and they really monitor for us. I have seen some of them managing to say things which actually politicians can't tell the public, because politicians want votes from the public. So we need these RDCs. Of course, they are also human beings like us. If we don't agree in political positions, that is very normal, because I was hearing majority members actually basing on that issue, that maybe when we have functions or when it is elections, they want to take themselves in a special way.
It is true, because I've tested it, for instance, in Kanungu, all this time I've been coming, but otherwise, other than that, they do a good job. And the fact that our civil servants, like the cow and others, actually are permanent and pensionable, sometimes they don't mind to go and even do the monitoring and follow up, you know, and talk to the people, and the people listen to them very well, or even bother to make sure that what they are saying, actually, the people follow it. So we need this office, honorable members, much as they disturb us during elections. The issue of term limits, I want to support it and say actually 2 is enough services for our people. Ministers, Madam Speaker, if we have ministers who are members of parliament here, it is very good. It can be so unfortunate if you went in the office of the minister, like now we have lost elections, others have gone through, maybe you want something from the minister and he doesn't know what actually politics is about. So we need ministers who are politicians, who are members of parliament, and after all, the government spends less because, first of all, this is a member of parliament who is just extending the office than picking around all the ministers from, you know, outside there who will actually burden the taxpayer the most. So we need to actually leave it the way it has been, because it has been the best. Madam Speaker, UPDF in Parliament, actually, I've also been wondering. I've never heard them talk about, for instance, the wives of the UPDF who dies. We have so many of them. The widows, they are there with their children suffering. Instead of going to them, they come to us. And when you look for them, they never mind about them. So I don't know their job description in this house, Madam Speaker. So I would also support that they get out, because their work is not much in the house. Their wives, the wives of the soldiers who have died have suffered enough, and they have representation in this house. So what is their work, really? We are here to represent our people. Then we add the burden of the wives of the UPDF who have died when they have their representatives here. It's unfortunate. I've gone to many of them telling them, my dear, these wives of yours have gone to Mbuya, have gone to Mbombo, they don't pay them. The minister, we have the Minister of Veterans, of course. But if you members of UPDF were taking it up very seriously, these women, their children, the children of your colleagues would not leave school. Most of them don't even study after their parents die, and their money is lying there. So do we really need you here? We don't at all. Actually, I was waiting, Madam Speaker, to talk about this because it hurts me. I have many people in my district whose children no longer go to school, and we have UPDF representatives. For what? There's no job description for them. We are happy they've kept our security very well, and so they can continue serving the country from outside, not from the house, Madam Speaker. The Electoral Commission, Madam Speaker, we need to have the chair appointed in this way, because this will serve the country better. And Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, the presidential, parliamentary, and elections, Madam Speaker, should actually be taken on the same day. I saw in my district after elections, the LC5 elections, then the subsequent ones, people were not going there. I went to vote, I was surprised. People were not voting. However, at the end of it, when they were announcing as if many people voted, but really, anyway, that's Uganda. But we should have it on the same day. Okay. We should have it on the same day and have different tallying offices. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Karungi. Indeed, she has raised a very, very important point. I've often had to deal with the wives of soldiers in my office, and it's true that they need real support. Honorable Bahati, Honorable Bumba, Honorable Awol Ochan,
thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Let me start from where Honorable Kalunji ended. Madam Speaker, it has been said that history is more than the past left by the past. It influences the present and can shape the future. Madam Speaker, the presence of the army in this temple of democracy called Parliament, their daily participation together with the representatives of the people in illustrating the aspirations of the people of Uganda has contributed toward the stability of our country and has deepened and widened our democracy, and a support that we should not remove them from our Constitution. Madam Speaker, in 2005, as Honorable Beto Omong said, and 2019, this House was presented with the question of whether we should remove the term limits. Both in 2005 and 2019, this the Parliament made an argument which carried the day that the idea of removing rigidities and restrictions on the right of the people of Uganda to choose their leaders was a good idea. I pray that, Madam Speaker, depending on how this debate ends, that this Parliament maintain that putting limits on the people of Uganda to choose their leaders was actually a question which was answered by the Constitution 1999, that let us elect our leaders every 5 years. That's enough restriction, and therefore does not require any other restriction. Madam Speaker, I want to inform this House, friends, that it's a good idea, a very brilliant idea that the Constitution put in place to have members of Parliament become ministers and also a window of ex-officials. Because members of Parliament, we know the pains our people go through. We represent them. And therefore, if you're a member of Parliament and a minister, member of Cabinet, when you are making policies, you feel them, you know what you are talking about. So, and also, Madam Speaker, I have had good ideas from this House, but I do not know. Probably you'll guide us, because that's what the committee said. The panel of speakers can strengthen and consolidate the efficiency of the administration of this House. The issue of the costs, given the ruling that we had and how I've been debating this House, the cost implications. That's the reason why the committee said these good ideas cannot pass the test, because they have financial implications, and therefore the limitations of a private member to move any bill or motion that has implications comes in play. Madam Speaker, how will you guide us on this? So, Madam Speaker, I want to thank my colleagues who have contributed, and also the Member of Parliament from Ndogwa East for bringing this debate. But I pray that the debate on term limits should actually, this must mark the end of this, because it's not a good idea. The Constitution sure did let the people of Uganda elect their leaders every 5 years. That's enough restriction. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
As I invite Honorable Said, Honorable members, you know, I find it interesting that we are happy to give more money to other bodies. We are happy to create more districts, happy to create more RDCs, happy to create presidential advisors to support one office. But when Parliament says, give us an opportunity to have 1 or 2 more people, they say no. There are no new people coming into Parliament.
Up next on UBC, brought to you by
Keep the lights on. Use Airtel Money to pay for all your Yaka bills conveniently. Open the